Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty. Grace and I are back here in the garage, and I'm going to reassemble the oil pump and the fuel pump for that 1951 Buick. Then working back at the shop when we can. We're still out here sheltering safely. So, pretty straightforward on this engine, or on the oil pump assembly. I went through and ran this through the tumbler. Now, there was a couple questions of why are you polishing up an oil pump that's going to get put into the oil pan and never be seen again? Well, the point really wasn't to polish it. The point was to clean it the best I could and the easy as I could. So inside of this bore now, it is nice and clean. It's not all gooky, let's just use that technical term. So now it's a matter of just assembling things. Pretty straightforward. You have the base housing. You have a relief pressure assembly. In fact, I even have a fresh spring for this. And a seal for the cover. The cover, obviously the screws for that, and then the two gears. So pretty simple. Just some straightforward engine oil. I like to put a little bit kind of everywhere here on all the little pieces, threads. Obviously the spring doesn't need that, but that way everything is free to move right from the get-go. Drop this down into the bore, put the spring in, take your cap for right now, and there is no seal here. That just goes down, 15/16 wrench, tightens that up. Drop your, let's get a little oil in this shaft. So a little bit of oil on the shaft, and it's only for that bushing as you go down through. Okay, same thing. This does not have an up or down. Drops in like so. That's your gears. Okay, and then at this point, we put our cover on. Now this cover will only go on one way. So if I turn it this way, the holes do not line up. So this direction, the screws in. Like any cover or whatever you're attaching, if it's got multiple screws, I like to run all the way around it, snug them up first. Okay, at this point also I'm going to make sure everything turns down here. No worries. Okay, so that's the magic, if you will, of putting the oil pump together. So oil pump's completely together, everything turns nice. There is a seal that will go between the block and the oil pump, and of course 2 bolts that hold it down. The only thing is missing off of this assembly right now is the oil pickup screen. Now the reason that screen is not here is, well, I left it at the shop, so it is what it is. And when we get back there and go to do the final assembly, we'll put that on, obviously bolt this to the engine and put that on, and that will be done. Okay, oil pumps assembled and ready. Now, next item is the fuel pump. So let's slide over here. I moved it over to the smaller or the shorter table here, so I have all the pieces laid out. Actually, I also have a motor's manual that I'm going to go through, and all I'm using it for is the exploded view, or this diagram. This is a motor's manual for a truck, and here's, you see, a truck repair manual, and I forget exactly what years, but it covers this particular fuel pump, and this is direct out of the Hagerty library. So we have a lot of this type of information on hand at our Hagerty facility and within our Hagerty Institute. So if you ever have any specific questions on something and you don't have access to that, shoot Glenn an email. He is our concierge, and he will gladly help you try to locate some of those parts or information. Okay, so here we have our fuel pump completely exploded apart. Everything's cleaned. I have the new stuff. These happen to be the old vacuums, diaphragms, just to make a comparison as I go put this back together. I have my motor's manual off to the shoulder here that I'm going to use as a guideline. It, of course, is not 100% exactly what I have, but it'll be close enough to make me dangerous here. So bear with me here. We're going to go through and put this together. I'm not going to go step by step explain what I'm doing. I'm just going to assemble it. And if I find something I think is interesting, we'll throw that out there as we go. Okay? So hopefully we'll do this in one reasonable assembly procedure. So there's the fuel pump side. Diaphragm's installed. I need to figure out how the best way is to hook the diaphragm piece onto the lever arm. I couldn't get it to stay on the other way. But that's that assembly. Then you have your screen mesh that goes in here. That is the filter. Now off to the vacuum pump side. Now the vacuum pump side has a little more clap trap to it. It's got this whole half, but it also has a vacuum diaphragm that goes in here, and it has this huge spring, and of course these check valves as well. And we'll have to get those all situated. But I do need to get this pump piece on first. All right, I am not going to tell you that was simple, but what I found the trick is that diaphragm, as I started to push it down with that big heavy spring in there, the rubber ends of the diaphragm wanted to flip up, and I got one that actually got tucked back, and I honestly couldn't get it back pulled apart, so or pulled back out. So what I did is I pulled the top back off, kind of reset everything, and had all the screws setting in the hole, and then brought it down evenly, and then slowly went through and just kind of put like a turn into each screw, and then I was able to, use a screwdriver and go all the way around it and get it nice and tight. So now that's done. Now it's nice and everything's nice and snug there. Last thing to do is, is to put these fittings on. Now there's a little piece of that brass filter material that goes over the top of this check valve, and it just basically lays in there. Nothing really holds it. I think it's a suggestion of filtering. The cork Actually, you know what? It's going to make sense to put the cork into the cap. That is the fuel pump. All done. I believe it's like this in the car, but I could be wrong. It might be upside down. But isn't that a beautiful thing? That's a lot of mechanical function going on there for 1951. All right, so there we are. We have our oil pump done. That's assembled. It's in the box, ready to go back to the main shop and get assembled to the engine when the engine's ready. This fuel pump is now ready as well, and it will go into a box and sit and wait until later. Now, next what I have to do is our distributor and the carb spacers. I got those, and I also have the balancer. But you know what? That's for a different day, because it's at the end of the night, and I'm not sure about my camera lady, but I'm getting tired. But I have one more thing I want to do before the end of the day, and we wrap all this up. So I'm going to leave you with this. A, be safe out there, have fun, get in the shop, get your work done, get outside and enjoy life, for gosh sakes. And secondly, I guess, bear with us all with the kind of impromptu camera stuff that we're doing. Grace is doing a great job, and we appreciate it, of course. And, you know, we're kind of winging at things, but that's all right. But I have over here, as promised, I have our engine, my engine, on the test stand, and it is ready for the first fire. Now, I have absolutely no promises, but if we can, we're going to leave you with that. Wish me luck. We're real close. We'll be able to fire this up soon. So, everybody have a nice evening. Get out in your shop, get your work done, go enjoy life and your whatever you find enjoyable. I'm hoping it's an old car because, you know, they're the best. See ya.